differently. So I don't know if you're a freshwater guy that's just getting into saltwater fishing, or if you're a well-seasoned fluker. So what I like to do with this seminar is I kind of give you a basis of everything to get you a good understanding, and then I go into a specific type of tactic that I like to do when I'm fluking off the boat. So let's get right into it. Who am I? How many of you guys know who I am? Okay, cool. So, Jenni Ackerman, that's me. I'm Jenni Ackerman. I work for the Fisherman magazine. If you go up to the booth, check out the March edition. I have 2 articles in there. One on rod building, where I talk about where I built this rod, the first rod I ever built. And then the second one is a historical piece on Point Pleasant Beach, which is where I grew up. So not only that, I started off working at Grumpy's Tackle in Seaside Park, New Jersey. That's where I learned customer service with fishermen. So I love teaching people how to catch fish, how to get on fish. So I took that passion from working at Grumpy's and I brought it forward with the Fisherman magazine. And of course, you know, Fisherman magazine, I'm not sitting at a shop talking to people face to face, so I do videos called Open Boat. They air every Sunday at 6, so you can watch it before Jeopardy comes on. And I'm either going out fishing, I'm teaching people how to fish. Shout out the guy in the back, Frankie Z. I'll fish on his boat all the time. So we'll do videos like that. I always want people to learn something new. I'm not doing this to boost my ego. I'm here to put you on fish. I want to see everyone that I interact with get on fish. That's my big goal. And another thing is every species I target is a well-studied species. I did want to be a marine biologist when I went to school. Just because I didn't get my degree in marine biology doesn't mean I don't have to study a species. I still do it. I obsess over the fish I catch, and I even have a koi pond in my backyard that I know everything about. So let's get into it. This is an icebreaker. Does size matter? Now guys, you might be laughing at this question, but I'm talking about fish sizes. So when I go fishing, I don't care if I catch a little tiny fish like that, or the slot, back when we had the good old slot, or my biggest fluke, that fish, that's the mount, 12 pounds, 33 inches. For me, I don't care. As long as I'm catching fish, I'm happy. Because in the future, look at the weak fish population for starters. Back in the day, you could catch a ton of weak fish in one trip. And then nowadays, you catch one, it's like a unicorn. So for me, I target like every species. I try to fish every single month out of the year. I always joke, I'll tell people, for real, this isn't the joke part. Fishing for me is my stress reliever. This is the joke part. Don't take this part seriously. I tell people, if I didn't fish, I'd be on FBI's Most Wanted. So that's why I try to fish all year round. So I'm happy to catch any species, anytime. I always say, I'd rather be hooked up on a fish than hooked up on a snag. Knowing that those fish are around keep me happy, and it should keep you guys happy too. That's why I always question guys that go out and they're like, oh, I'm fishing for trophies today. Okay, that's cool, but you should still be thankful if you catch a little fish, you know, at least they're still there. So that's how I see it with fishing, you know. And the biggest thing with when you're targeting trophy fish, it's gonna happen when you least expect it. You're gonna catch that big fish when you're not purposely out there looking for a trophy. So keep that in mind. So like I said, I wanted to be a marine biologist when I went to school. My degree, I graduated from Monmouth University with my BFA in graphic and interactive design, so that's not really marine biology at all, but I did graduate summa cum laude, but that's just because I minored in marketing. But I still study the species, and I think every angler should do this too, because it gives you a leg up compared to the average angler. Because if you study where these fish, like their migratory patterns, where they go, what they feed on, you're gonna know early spring, they're gonna be here. I'm gonna target them here and throw this, instead of, oh, it's April, let me go to the beach and throw this out here and let it sit and see what happens. When you actually know where they're gonna be, that gives you the leg up. So you can have early season fish before your buddies even know where to go to target the species. So let's get into it. Getting to know your target, the fluke. This is always the fun part, pronouncing the Latin name, which if you want to memorize it, you can tell your buddies, if they ask you what you're targeting, you can tell them the Latin name and they're going to look at you like you're speaking Latin. They have no clue what you're targeting. So, Paralictus dentatus, known as the fluke. Bottom dwellers, and they camouflage themselves into their surroundings. How many times have you guys caught a fluke, and you can raise your hand and agree, that's been very sandy colored, very light, right? Yeah, they're on sandy bottom. Call one that's really dark. They're on mussel beds. They're on like a muddy bottom. They can be even nestled up against a wreck. They blend into their surroundings. Sometimes they'll even bury themselves in the sand, and you just see a little triangle with their two eyes. And as they develop, their right eye shifts to the top of their head. So for a fluke, that's why it makes them great ambush predators. But if you imagine like you just gave birth to your first kid and their eye starts moving to the top, that's a little freaky. But for fluke, with the many, many years of evolution, it works, making them the top tier ambush predator of our oceans. And they typically live for 12 to 14 years too. So they have a pretty decent lifespan for a fish species. And this is a big thing. Females can produce typically between 460,000 to 4 million eggs. So if you think about like the stock status of fluke, and of course not all those eggs are going to make it. When they get released out into the water system, they're going to get eaten by other fish. Even fluke will eat them. But still, that's a significant egg count to keep that fluke population going. And this is the biggest thing. I always say, cut open their bellies. Any species I catch, cut open their bellies. Specifically in the summertime, like if I go fluking on a Saturday and I know I'm going back out, like on the boat on Sunday, if I know I'm going to go to that same wreck, let's say I'm going to the Axle, I cut open the fish I get on Saturday, I see what's in their bellies, and whatever they just ate that day, it's still going to be in there. I'm going to go tomorrow, I'm going to match the hatch. So say they ate shrimp, I'm going to get a shrimp artificial, or I'm going to get live shrimp and try that for the next day. Matching the hatch, it's a good way to go. And fluke feed on, like I said, shrimp, smaller fluke, crabs, and squid. So those are your live bait options. And their migration patterns are seasonal. So I don't want to bring up how bad last season was, but I'm going to do it, so I'm sorry in advance, but last season wasn't that great, right? Wasn't swell. It's very cold. The south winds made the ocean very cold. So a lot of guys found big fish in the shallow, warmer water. Like where I am, they're in the river. But like a lot of guys are getting them in the back bays and stuff because that's warm, shallow water. They didn't want to be out in the cold. Some of them were there, but not the populations we saw. So in the winter and early spring, they're offshore. And then in the summer and late spring, they move inshore. And then they move back offshore in the fall. So remember that for this upcoming fluke season, May 4th, if it happens again with the weather, opening day and probably through July, stay in the back bays, stay in the rivers. You'll find them there. But hopefully, since we just had a real winter, we have a good summer. But I don't know. I don't have my crystal ball in front of me. I can't tell you. So the first spot, growing up, I never had a boat. I still don't have a boat. All my buddies have boats. A good way to never pay for gas on your friend's boat, bake them cookies. I'm not talking Toll House here, I'm talking homemade from scratch, award-winning cookies. So if you don't want to pay for gas, bring cookies.
You're invited on my boat.
Exactly. This is why I do seminars. But walking the beaches can really bring you some decent fish, believe it or not. There's been times where, back when I was in school, I'd wake up in the morning, go hit the surf, and then at night I would hit the surf again. But now that I'm adulting, I have a full-time job, 9 to 5, I go in the morning or at night, or you can go at the incoming tide. Why? Because the incoming tide brings in not only just the water, brings in the bait fish, and it brings in the big fluke that are chasing those bait fish. So I always advise people, if you're gonna fluke off the beach and you wanna go to a specific spot, go there at low tide and study where those cuts are, the deep troughs. All those holes are where fluke like to hang out in on the surf. And then come back at the incoming and fishing from the incoming to high tide, because that's when those fish are going to be there. And fishing and patience aren't really two words that go well together, but you kind of have to have it when you're fishing off the beach. Because it's not like you're pulling up on your boat to Seagirt Reef and you know based off of your tracks where you've had bites in the past. When you walk onto the beach, you don't know if there's fish in front of you. You have to work for it. There's times where I have my phone in my pocket. My step counter has already met its goal in 2 hours from me walking miles and miles to the beach. So you get a lot of good exercise, and hopefully you burn some calories to pack in a fluke sandwich after you're done fishing. And when I go fluking off the beach, I like to bring my 8-foot rod paired with, I have a VR50 on it, but usually you do a 4,000 size reel. Why that bigger setup? Because in the summertime, the warmer water brings a lot of bycatch. You're getting bluefish, resident stripers, cow-nosed rays, sometimes even cobia. And those bigger fish do pull, so having a heavier rod to kind of haul them up the beach and a bigger spool just helps handle those fish a little bit more. And the biggest thing when you're jigging for fluke, I like to do, like I said, they're in the trough. This is the fun part. This is the interactive part of the seminar, so you people in the front are in trouble. But I do have hook guards on these, so you don't even have to cast it far. It's not like you're striper fishing where you're casting out past the second bar. They're hanging out close. Pitch it out, and then you're just gonna jig, 1, 2, 3. Reel in half a crank, jig, 1, 2, 3. And what I do, I'll reel it all the way up to my feet. Like I said, they hang out close. That's what you wanna do. And you just wait. You wait for that tap, 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 and that's when you set the hook. Going to the back bay. Like I said, fluke season opens May 4th, same as last year. That's coming up quick. And I know a lot of guys that wait till June and July to start fluking. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, half of them don't even have boats. Like, if you had a boat, I would understand going out into the ocean, but half of these guys don't even have boats. So it's like, you have an untouched fishery that you could be targeting right now, early season, and get big fish before your other buddies have even started fishing. So back bay, like I said, going back to the biology, all those big fish start off back there, shallow, warmer waters. Like the sod banks and behind, if you're thinking like me by Island Beach, always fish behind Island Beach State Park. I don't care if you're not a local, go to that place, go to the kayak launches or somewhere back there and find spots, because that's a really good spot. It's an estuary with a ton of bait fish and a ton of predator fish to follow. So that's a really good spot. And for fishing in the back bays, another thing with Island Beach, it is a little treacherous. There are some marsh pits that you could fall into. I fell into one up to my thigh one time. So you can wait it if you're trying to risk it for the biscuit. You can ride a kayak back there. Or if you had a smaller boat or skiff, take that back there. Give it a shot. You can use that same surf rod setup that I was talking about if you're waiting. But if you're on a kayak or a boat, 6-foot rod with a 3,000 size reel or just a light bait caster conventional. Keep it simple, keep it light. And the biggest thing when it comes to back bay that people just don't care about is this picture. This picture was from 2 summers ago. If you can't see it in the back, you can stand up, but take a gander. That's not tricking the camera with holding the fish out really far. That's a big fish. Call it right behind Island Beach. You can tell that's the sod bank. That guy came in to Grumpy's Tackle when I was still there. And this was peak summer, early May. Everyone's weighing in like 16 inches because you can keep that size at Island Beach. So every 5 minutes, I gotta weigh in, I gotta weigh in, I gotta weigh in. So I gotta go out, take your picture, weigh it, blah, 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 blah. You know the drill. So this guy comes in, he goes, hey, I have a weigh-in. Okay, cool. So I'm already like tunnel vision, going through the steps, setting up the scale, blah, blah, blah. He's like, let me run to my truck and get it. I'm setting it up, putting the hook on. I hear him walk up the steps. This is a good part if anyone's asleep. I hear this on the table or on the ground. And I'm like, oh my God. I see this thing laid out, and I'm like, did you get this off the boat? He's like, no, I got this behind Island Beach. I was like, get the heck out of here. He showed me pictures. Obviously, I have the pictures. So we weighed that fish 9.8 pounds. You guys think you can only get big fish on the boat? Nope. He got this waiting in the back bay early season. So that picture sums up my point of why you should be out there that first week of opening week trying, because bragging rights matter. That guy ticked off all his buddies all season long because he got a bigger fish that first week of opening day before his buddies even went out. And they didn't do anything out in the ocean. So bragging rights, that's a big fish for bragging rights. Now we're going to the ocean. I did just diss it on the last slide, but listen, that's where I caught my biggest fluke, and I know a lot of guys catch big fluke in the ocean. It's my favorite place to be. I love being out there. So, anglers, oh, there's a typo, hang on. Ignore this slide. There's a mistake, but I'm going to talk about it off the top of my head. I'm going to stand in front of the screen like this for 5 minutes. So, when you go out in the ocean, take your boat, if you have a boat, or use your buddy's boat, but bring baked cookies. And you're going to either use a spinning rod, which I do, or a conventional. I like to do 6 or 7 foot, 3,000 size reel, like conventional if you're using conventional. But you'll soon learn why I don't use conventional. And you're just going to find your drift spots and make it work. But take advantage of tracks. If you are a boat owner, remember your tracks over the pieces that you drift so you know from last season, okay, I did well here. Keep a log. I did well here. Let me try it again this year. Don't follow a big boat that you know crushes fish every year. Find your own fish. Go somewhere where no one else is. And here's a really good tip that you're not going to see on the PowerPoint, although the slide's messed up. Late September, before the season closes, the whole month of September actually. How Klondike, who knows that? Who knows the Klondike? Keep it up there. You'll find me out there mid-September on the Klondike because that's a spot where a second wave of fish can come in and you'll get some biggies. Moving on, we're going to talk about my favorite tactic for catching fluke, pitching up current. And this is a tactic that I do. I love light tackle. This is a rod I built. It's nice and light. And when it comes to rod building, you can be a real nerd about it. So catching fish on this rod is freaking great. And I'm going to get into why I like pitching up current so much. So this is a point where if you aren't already taking notes, or if you're asleep, wake up and bring out your notepads and start taking notes. So pitching up current, how do you do it? Obviously, you're going to need a boat. You're going to pull up to that piece you're going to fish on, and you're going to start before say it's like a wreck. I'll just say wreck, for example. It's whatever spot it is, reef, wreck, whatever you're fishing. Pull up to that spot. You're going to start, I don't want to get in the way of pictures, but you're going to start before the piece even starts. Say like the wreck is at the end of the table. Start your drift here, and your boat isn't facing the drift, it's facing the side. It's a big thing. You're going to do a dummy drift over the piece to see what direction you're going in, what speed you're at. And with pitching up current, you're only covering a 4 to 6 foot area. But that may sound like a con, but it's a pro. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But I like to fish the bow. It's funny. I was going to stand on the chair, but I'm probably going to break it. But I fish I don't know, should I do it? I fish the bow. I'm up here, hand on my hip like this, fishing the bow. It's like, I call it my dance floor, because it looks like I'm doing that dance. We can do some WWE stuff on that later. I can throw someone on the table. I just weakened that. But I call it the dance floor. You fish up at the bow, you make it work. You're going to pitch it out. We have a clock. You're going to pitch it out here. And the best way to get your rig down to the bottom fast, since it's light tackle, is you're going to first pitch it out, open your bail. I have mine open here, and you're going to do this. So a bunch of line just came out on my bail. You're gonna do that a couple times because what you're gonna see is all your line form like a snake on the surface. Keep doing that a couple of times until it goes tight, and that's when you close your bail and you start working. So you're gonna jig nice and light. See how my wrist is twitching here? Like I'm barely jigging. That's all you need, because you can see with my sensitive tip of the rod that it's still working. You're not doing giant jigs like this where you're skipping over. Light jigs keeps the bait in front of the fish longer. This is what you want because big fish are lethargic. And I kid you not, by 12 o'clock here, that's when I'm getting all my bites. And by the time I'm at 3, I have that fish in the boat, or if I didn't get any bites, I reel it in at 3 o'clock because you don't want it to scope out. So you bring it back in, and based off of how long your drift is, you pitch it back out, you work it. If you're doing a longer drift, sometimes I can do up to 10 pitches, but if you're short drifting, maybe like 5. So if my words sounded like absolute gobbledygook, here's a visual aid to explain what I just talked about. You have your boat. Here I am up at the bow. You're drifting this way. You pitch your rig out. It drops. You're jigging this whole fish zone, and then you're bringing it back in. So that's the whole pitching up current way of doing it. And if you're tournament fishing, I can show you guys how to get 4 to 5 guys to do this on a boat. If you have a 6-man, like a 6-pack tournament boat, I'll show you how to do it. You got 2 up at the front. First guy pitches it. By the time he gets to 12 o'clock, he steps off the bow and lets his buddy step up and pitch. So you're kind of like doing a revolving movement. Same thing in the back of the boat. Guy pitches here. He's working the back by the engine. So by the time he gets to 6 o'clock, or 12, whichever way you're facing, but by the time he gets to the back of the engines, he slides over and lets the buddy over here pitch. So you pitch, you fish it, you move over. So you're constantly moving. It's almost like you're fighting a tuna around the boat, but it's not so like chaotic. So that's your visual aid of how to do it. Now the gear I use for pitching up current. 6 to 7 foot rods. I prefer shorter. This one I think is just 7. I don't remember if I cut it or not. This is the first rod I ever built, so I built 11, so. 6 to 7 foot rods with a 3,000 size reel. Nice and light. If you can't go the custom route, don't worry, I can't do it anymore. I built all my rods when I was in college before I got blessed with those things called student loans, so you can get Jigging World makes really nice rods. I really like their Night Ranger, Onyx, really good rods, reasonably priced, great quality, and good customer service. Tsunami, another one. Big name in the game. Tsunami rods are great. Any of those, personal preference on your company, go ahead, whatever floats your boat. As long as they have a sensitive tip, but a sturdy backbone. And I'll show you. What's your name?
Rich.
Rich. Rich is going to hold this bucktail, and he's not going to get hooked because there's a hook bar on it. But if he does, I'm not liable. Hold that. Hold it nice and tight.
Okay.
I'm going to show you the action on this rod. See how it's a sensitive tip, but it still has a lot of backbone? It's bending by that 4th guide in. That's what you want. You want a rod that has sensitive tip to feel the bites, but enough backbone to haul those fish up. Thank you. You're good. You didn't hook yourself either.
No.
See? You're always safe at a Jenni seminar. I bring hook cards. There's no danger here. So going on to the braid. Like I said, you want to get down to the bottom faster. I showed you that technique of snaking the braid out on the water, but you can spool it with 15 to 20 pound braid. Lighter braid gets to the bottom faster. If you're fishing like your first time doing this and you're used to like 30, which I haven't done in like a million years, start with 20 pound braid, but I like 15. I do have a little bit heavier on here right now because this is what I use for blackfish jigging. This is my blackfish jigging rod too. And leader, I just use 30-pound fluorocarbon. I have a giant spool of it at my house. That's just what I use. You don't have to go the fluoro route. It's a little pricey, I know. You can use regular leader material, but I use Andy 30-pound fluorocarbon. The tackle I use, like I said with my rod setups, I want it light. Same thing with my rig setups, light, light, light. Bucktails, 1 to 1.5 ounce bucktails. When I'm pitching up current in the ocean, I'm talking deep spots, like I just told you about the Klondike, that's out there. I'm not maxing over 2 ounces on the bucktail. There's rare times I will use a 2-ounce bucktail. I make it work. If your underwater current's too fast, drop a drift sock. Go to Home Depot, get a bucket, throw that in there with a rope attached. DIY drift sock, you can thank me later. Or you can get your Minn Kota Rodan, drop it in there, control your drift, make it slower. Anything you can do to slow down your drift, do it. Because you want to use lighter stuff. If you don't, it'll scope out with the underwater current. Teasers. See that thing up there dancing around? That's called a tsunami hollow teaser. There's no weight to it. It's a skirt. It just hooks right onto the dropper loop itself. Do not buy a lead-headed teaser for this rig. I will be very upset because the whole name of the game with this rig is light. The only weight you have is in the bucktail. So the hollow teaser skirt just slides right on, and I have it in glow. Same thing with the bucktail. Magic tail hoochie jigs, glow. I also like pink glow. Again, the key word here, I like glow. You guys should too. On my bucktail, I pair it with a 6-inch gulp. Guess what colors? Take a wild guess. Glow. Who said white? Are you asleep? And you just got here. Okay, it's like glow or pink shine, which glows too. And then on the teaser for ocean fluking, 6.0 bait holder hook. Big fish, big hooks. If you're fishing in the river or the back bay, you can do a 3 to 4.0. But I use something different on my teaser hook. They're called Q8 super bait. I have some here for you. I only have a limited amount, so I can't give them to everybody. But if you go out that door, they have a booth right there. I got them here from Florida. They're good people, but I use them on my teaser hook. They're very durable. I've caught 8 fluke to 1 Q8 super bait. Whereas if I was using something else, I'm not going to name drop because I don't want to get sued. I don't know if any of you guys work for the big G, but you squeeze the bag, you know it could be a little squishy. And fluke have teeth, especially if you get a pesky sea bass, it can get ripped up. So I work with these guys down in Florida. We make durable baits, and they're trying to get northeastern exposure. So I have some packs to give out to you guys here today, but if you don't grab one, because I don't have as many as people in here, just go see them at their booth. Cheryl and Morgan, they're good peeps. And the biggest pro tip I can say, support your local shops and businesses, which is kind of what I just said with Q8. Magic Tail is a local guy. Dante is here at Fisherman Headquarters. Tsunami, they're here. They're all good people, and we all want to see you get on fish. And this is just a little shout out to Q8. They're at booth 29. They not only make the curly tails for fluke, they also make little trout eggs and freshwater lures, night crawlers, worms, little shrimps. Remember when I said how you can cut open a fluke's belly and there's shrimp inside? Maybe you want to get some Q8 shrimps. So they're literally, I kid you not, right out that door, make the left, and you'll see them, corner booth. Tell them Jenny sent you. Please, go see them. Here's some pictures. I did an open boat video where we took these little girls out fluking, and I gave them Q8 to use. And they absolutely crushed on it. So the proof is in the pudding. Give it a shot this fluke season. And here we go. Putting my college degree to work after I graduated, I made you a lovely illustration of my rig. So we got everything on there. We have the bucktail, like I said, 1 to 1.5 ounces. Tied with a uni knot. No jewelry. No TA clips on the bottom of my rig. I don't like that. I love wearing jewelry, but not on my rigs. It's too much stuff. The only jewelry I will do that might be questionable to some anglers, the barrel swivel at the top. I do that because I pre-tie all my rigs before I go fluking. Biggest thing, never, ever, ever reuse a rig when you're fishing. I don't care if you're going black fishing, striper, off the surf, fluke, whatever. Do not reuse a rig because you don't know how beat up this rig is. I tied this rig fresh for these seminars starting back in January. I'm not fishing this because I'm pitching this thing into chairs and into people's feet in the audience. I don't know if it's getting cut up on something. So does your rig when you go out on the ocean. It can get chafed up on rocks, the side of the boat, a fish's mouth, anything. Never reuse a rig because you could have your biggest fish on and it breaks off right in front of your boat. And whose fault is it? It's yours. So retie your rigs. And I do the barrel swivel because it's easier for me in case I just break off. My hands are slimy with fluke guts. Quick uni knot to tie on my barrel swivel, easy peasy. I'm set to go back in the water. Because if you break off and you're pitching up current, you want to get back in the water as fast as you can. Follow it a little down. You got 12 inches from the swivel to the dropper loop. Simple. Dropper loop, put your hook on, put your hook on, slide your teaser on too, and that's it. Dropper loop, easy. And like I said, a uni knot. So this rig is literally uni knot, dropper loop, uni knot. Simple. That's very easy. Quick, easy, good. We're not talking tog here, where I'm tying a Belmar rig, loop-de-loop, all this stuff like that, wrap the sink around, pull it through. It's easy. Pros to pitching up current. This is a tournament winning tactic. If you go to the Grumpy's tackle booth, you'll see a little bald man. His name is Ray. He's my old boss, so I can call him bald. He is the one who taught me this tactic. He's caught the biggest fluke consistently that I've seen. We all get lucky with our one big one, but he consistently catches big fish doing this tactic. And he does a lot of the fluke tournaments in the summer and does pretty well for himself. So it is a tournament winning tactic. Using light tackle does not cause fatigue on the arm as much as that heavy conventional where you're sitting there and you're just jigging. With pitching up current, you're using a light rod, which you guys can come up at the end of the show and check out my rod that I built. I purposely made it light. I even have a lighter one with titanium guides, but you'll feel this one. If you're tournament fishing, that could be a 15-hour day out on the water. You go out there before the sun comes up, you're back in by dinner time. Jigging can take its toll. So I like fishing light so I don't get tendonitis at 25 years old. And like I said with that slow jigging at the beginning, it keeps the bait in front of the fish for longer. Big fish, any species, they're lazy, they're lethargic, they're not going to be chasing bait. If you drop this down and you're fluttering it, I'm moving my rod. It's moving closer. That's more time in front of a big fish for it to acknowledge the bait, say, hey, I want to eat that, and then eat it and commit to it. So regular jigging can skip over like that, but with pitching up current, jig, 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 jig. You're covering closer radiuses because regular jigging, you skip over, that big fish could be right there in the middle of the aisle, you can miss it. So that's why you just light jig. And the biggest thing I always say when you're fluking, wait for the 3 taps. Sometimes like a fluke can obviously swallow your bait all together, but I always advise people to wait for the 3rd tap because their bites are like tap, tap, tap. So if you have your bucktail on and you have a 6-inch grub, that grub goes down to here sometimes. So that first bite, that fish is nowhere near the hook. So when you go first light bite and you don't have the 2nd and 3rd, you wait. But that first bite, you set the hook, you're not going to get the fish. You're going to see a little tear in your tail. So you wait. Patience. You got to learn it for fluking. 2nd bite, almost there. 3rd bite, he's laying on it. His mouth is around the hook. And what I like to do after the third bite is when I feel it, I give it like 1 second. I'll gently lift my rod up just a little bit, and you'll feel that weight of the fish laying on it. That's when you set the hook. Like I said, of course, there are the times, bless you, where the fish will just jump on it. Like the expression, you drop the jig on the fish's head. But I always wait for that tap, tap, tap. Especially when you're tournament fishing, you get really eager to get that first, or not even just tournament fishing, fishing in general. You're really eager to get that first fish on the boat, but take your time and wait for the triple tap system. And those big fish feel really good on a light tackle rod. Coming from the rod builder geek here, like, I love it. The adrenaline you get, you feel every single head shake with that fish. It's great. So I try to make the best of every trip I go on. I don't have a boat, so whenever I go, I want to have a good day. Even if the bite sucks, I'm still positive about it. And I always say the expression, a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at work. Do not go to the Fisherman Magazine booth and tell my boss that, but it's a good expression to live by. And with this rig, you notice there's 2 hooks on it, so my goal every time with this rig is to double up on fish. I think that's so much fun. And when I'm with my buddies and I double up, or anyone on the boat doubles up, we get so, like, we overreact to it tenfold. We think it's the funniest thing, but it's so much fun. And I have videos here, but they're not gonna play because I don't have freaking internet. Give me 1 second. We have time, don't leave yet. You're getting free stuff. I have a video here that shows why you fish this rig. So 1 second. Another pro tip for your buddies that go out on the boat with you, look at the person sitting next to you if they go fishing with you. Question, are you a good netter? Do you have a trustworthy net buddy? Food for thought. I am excellent at netting fish. Any species I will net. But if you have a buddy that might accidentally, oh no dude, I knocked it off with the net, I'm sorry, to your biggest fluke, you might want to question if he's worthy of going on your boat again. So
He'll be swimming.
think about that.
He'll be swimming for
So going back to using this rig and using the double hook system, I'll show you a trip that I accomplished my goal. Because it's every time I want to do this. First, here's the first one in the morning. You know, 2 little fish, doubled up. You can see my rig and everything. And you can hear on the video, the captain goes, that's gonna be a tough one to beat. And whenever someone tells that to me, not even with just fishing, I'm like, dude, try me. Like, watch. End of the day. Biggie keeper, and then the little one was just under. It was an island beach keeper, but you can't keep them on the boat. So that's the same day. I got my white extra tufts on, so you can tell, white shoes. But doubling up on fish like that, imagine 2 12-pounders on that rig. Not just a little one and a biggie. Imagine that. That's even more to brag about to your buddies. I doubled up on 2 12-pounders. It felt like a halibut. That's awesome, and everyone should aspire to get that. All right, is everyone awake? We did it. We made it through. How are we feeling? Good? All right. I'm not done yet. Wait. I'm not done yet. Sorry. I gotta hold you here for 5 more minutes. If you want to come up and ask me questions, please do. I do have my YouTube linked. That's where I post all my open boat videos. They are live on The Fisherman, but I post them separate just so you can find them quickly. They're all there. You want to come up and ask me questions, look at my rod, come up. I do have only a couple. I don't have a lot of these here. I'm sorry. The Q8 Super Base. Grab them while you can. Do not fight anyone to get them. Go see them at their booth. They're doing good deals. But one more thing. If you guys want a sticker, I make stickers, fishing stickers. So I have a blind bag game for $5. You can come up and grab an envelope. One of those stickers is in here, and you'll get a sticker. So come on up, get your Q8 while they're here, or come talk to me. We're done. You're good. You made it. Congratulations.